his girlfriend with the drug. That conviction stands. In a statement issued by his lawyers, he said he loved Miss Fletcher-Mihy and wished he'd done more to save her.
Marks & Spencer has announced more job cuts as it continues its shake-up in the wake of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The retailer's axing another 7,000 jobs over the next 3 months, about a tenth of its workforce, on top of the 1,000 announced last month. M&S has seen revenue slump by almost 40% in the last 3 months. Here, our business correspondent, Ben Thompson.
M&S was already midway through a major restructure. But as shoppers stay away and stores remain quiet, the retailer has been forced to speed up plans to cut costs. In the 2 months since stores reopened, sales are down 48%. Its online business has performed well, but sales of higher-priced formal wear and office clothes have slumped, replaced with cheaper casual wear as more people work from home. It is a challenge facing many on the high street. Dave Gill is the head of the shop workers union Usdaw and says more government help is needed.
We've been calling on the government now for some time to work with the trade unions, work with employers to look at a recovery plan to develop the retail and the high street back to its former glory.
M&S is pinning its hopes on a belated tie-up with the online retail giant Ocado, a deal it hopes will help it catch up with rivals. And its surplus spring and summer stock that wasn't sold this year, it's putting that into storage to sell next year instead.
In the city, the 100 share index ended the day down 51 points at 6,076. On Wall Street, a short time ago, the Dow Jones was down 28 points at 27,817. On the currency markets, the pound is up 0.1% against the dollar at $1.32. Against the euro, sterling is up 0.4% at €1.10.8, making a euro worth 90.2 pence. Football fans have been given the go-ahead to attend some matches for the first time since the coronavirus pandemic began. The government has just updated its guidance, which means some non-league football clubs will now be able to open their gates to spectators. More details from our sports news reporter Laura Scott.
For many non-league clubs, match days are only financially viable when fans are present, meaning some leagues had decided to delay resuming play until they could have spectators in. Pressure came from a number of angles, including a campaign from clubs titled Let Fans In, a petition to government that gained more than 10,000 signatures, and a letter to the Sports Minister from 35 MPs, including the former Sports Minister Tracy Crouch.
There's some anomalies in the way that we are getting people back to supporting events. I can go to a casino, I can go to a bowling alley, but I can't go and watch my local non-league club. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
The change came this afternoon when the government amended its guidance for recreational team sport, which means fans will now be allowed to attend games in the 7th tier of English football and below. Strict protocols will need to be followed, with fans having to abide by social distancing rules and spectator groups restricted to discrete 6-person gathering limits. But a distinction has now been drawn between recreational sporting events, which tend to attract smaller local crowds, and the vast crowds at elite sports.
With staycations on the cards for many of us this summer, British beaches are seeing a huge influx of tourists. But if you go to Weymouth Beach, you're likely to see visitors of a different kind, several abandoned cruise ships. The first one arrived in March, and there's been a steady stream arriving there ever since. Duncan Kennedy has been to take a look at the fleet of huge ships waiting out the coronavirus crisis off the Dorset coast.
Weymouth Bay has become a parking bay for Britain's cruise industry. We counted 10 ships today, all because COVID-19 has halted cruising. They're here so they don't have to pay the berthing fees in ports, but these mega ships have now become major tourist attractions.
Something else to come and see, isn't it? Something different.
There should be out cruising, but what can you do with this going on? I mean, it's a bit of a risk for the passengers, isn't it?
And look, he's got a big hand up at the window there.
The ships have become so popular, special boat trips are taking people round them, in what's become a kind of maritime museum. Each vessel still has about 100 crew on board to keep them maintained and stop them drifting in rough weather. Miles Morgan runs his own shipping line and says the industry probably won't get going until next year.
To see ships bobbing around Weymouth Harbour is quite unprecedented. So the focus now moves on to how we find solutions. The cruise industry is a £10 billion industry for the UK, so it's vital it gets going.
The line of liners off Weymouth are the pride of Britain's cruising fleet, but it's currently a fleet, an industry, that's off course.
The headlines again. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has confirmed a major shake-up of the health bodies tackling coronavirus, despite warnings this shouldn't take place before a possible second wave. The Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, has sought to blame England's exams regulator for the chaos surrounding A-level grading. The government has said it wants A-level students who have accepted an insurance university offer to be able to change their mind, even if they've now received higher grades. An international court has found a member of the militant group Hezbollah guilty of involvement in assassinating Lebanon's former Prime Minister, Rafik Hariri. France is planning to make face coverings compulsory in nearly all shared office spaces to cut the number of coronavirus infections. The widow of PC Andrew Harper, who was dragged to death behind a car, has said those who kill emergency workers should be jailed for life. Marks & Spencer is shedding another 7,000 jobs during the next 3 months, about a tenth of its workforce. BBC News.
And the news was read by Neil Sleet. David Sedaris takes us on a cheeky rummage through his wardrobe in a moment. But first, here's Linda Presley with news of a BBC exclusive.
In Crossing Continents on Radio 4, the former lover of Juan Carlos, the emeritus King of Spain, speaks exclusively to the BBC. After Corinna Syme-Wittgenstein went on safari with the King to Botswana in 2012, Spain's acceptance of its monarchy began to unravel. Now Juan Carlos has departed Spain, leaving a trail of allegations of financial wrongdoing. His ex-lover talks about being pursued by Spain's Secret Service, a €65 million gift she received from the King, and that elephant. That's Spain, the elephant in the palace, with me, Linda Presley, on Thursday morning at 11 on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
Now on BBC Radio 4, it's time for some retail therapy, and who better to go shopping with?
Ladies and gentlemen, meet David Sedaris.
Thank you. This is a story that I had in the New Yorker not long ago, and it's called The Perfect Fit. I'm not sure how it is in small families, but in large ones, relationships tend to shift over time. You might be best friends with one brother or sister, then 2 years later it might be someone else. Then it's likely to change again and again after that. It doesn't mean that you've fallen out with the person you used to be closest to, but that you've merged into someone else's lane, or had him or her merge into yours.